Hello everybody. So welcome to our e-mentoring session for week 8 and 9. Last week I wasn't able to conduct a session, so it's a repeat of last week's what I had to cover, right? So our session today is based on random numbers and simulations. All of you can hear me? If you cannot, if there's any disturbance while hearing me, please do tell. And yeah, so it's 10 a.m. so we start our session. Right. Simulations. So when we say simulation programs, what comes to your mind? What do you mean, like simulation programs? One after the other. Like, my question is like simulate. When we say the word simulate, what does that mean? Getting them. You guys are getting into C++. I am saying like simulation. For example, there are games on Play Store like you have to simulate being being a pilot. You have to fly a plane. You have to simulate. So it's a simulation of a real world object, right? The real world object is a plane, and in the game you are trying to simulate being a pilot. So that is what simulation means in normal English, right? And then, for example, taking that into C++, right? So, for example, our real world problem would be, for example, would be rolling a dice. So when you roll a dice, you get a number from 1 to 6. Now to make that into a computer program, it's known as simulation, right? So simulation can be defined as the imitation of the operation of a real world process or system over time. Right. Now, what do you mean by the word random? Just any simple definition of random you can think of. Yeah. So random, yeah, can be a guess, can be any value. So it's just a weight. For example, randomly something happens. For example, the number of students who come to the lectures are random. It keeps on changing. It's sometimes good, sometimes bad, right? So yeah, that is what random means. Right. Now, the random function. So the C++ has a special library called rand, and this contains has a random number generator. So using this, you can get random numbers, right? So you can use these random numbers, for example, while making a game for throwing the dice. If you want the computer to pick a number between 1 to 6, you can use this function. So it's a rand function. It's in the C++ library and it generates random numbers, right? Now, what is the library that is associated with the rand function? Any ideas? So we got CSTD-LIB. It is CSTD-LIB, right? So yeah, you say you're correct, but I think you misspelled it. So it's CSTD-LIB. So in this library, when you want to use the rand function, it is important that you hashtag include CSTD-LIB, right? Otherwise, it will give you a compile error because the compiler will not be able to find. So the rand function is inside this library. So the compiler, when the compiler says this word, it will go inside this library and find the rand function, right? So, do you think do you think that this rand function has a boundary? Yeah, so this is a thought, so you can think it on that. Do you think this rand function has a boundary, right? No. As discussed earlier, the random function is defined in the CSTD-LIB header. Only rand yields a random integer between 0 and rand max. The value of rand max is implementation dependent. Implementation dependent means it is up to the programmer. We can get any values between 0 and the maximum number declared. And it is a constant, the random max, right? So if you say 10, then it will give values between 0 and 10. If you say almost like 100, it will get a value between 0 and 100. So 100 is the rand max. All clear on this? And implementation dependent, it means like here, you, the programmer, are controlling this value. Now, modeling using the rand function. So, rand modulo b minus a plus 1. It means to obtain a random value between 0 and b minus a by using the rand function. So we want to get a value between a and b. So this is b minus a plus 1. And you have the rand function, and then you have this modular sign, right? So what this, when you declare this, what it will do, it will give you a random number between b to a. For example, you want to find a random number between 10 to 20. So a will be 10 and our b will be 20. We want to find random numbers between that. So it will be rand modulo 20 minus 10 plus 1. Okay? Yeah. So again, you want to get numbers between 50 and 100. You want to get a random number which is between 50 and 100. So our rand function will somewhat be like this. Rand, the brackets, and then the modulo. Then you want to get the numbers between 50 and 100. So b will be 100 upper boundary minus 50 plus 1. Right? Now, exercise for you. Write a function that using the following guidelines for the pair of die. Right? Using 1 to 6 as the bounds, modeling for 2 dice, running for 10 tries, randomly selects 2 numbers for each try. Okay, so first what you do is attempt this part. So you write a random function to get a number between 1 to 6 for the dice. Is that the equation of the random function? Yeah, this is the formula. You can use this equation to get a random value. Okay, Eva? And Eva, please provide your student ID for attendance. And all of you, please attempt this. So get a random number between 1 and 6. Write the function for that. Thank you, Eva. I hope you are attempting that. So what's the modulo stand for? So yeah, it gives a reminder, like when you go deep into like getting how this formula is taken, you will know that. But for our purpose in C++, I think you just know this formula. know this formula, and when they ask you to get a value from between these two days, just put the values. There won't be a question like what the modulo sign is for, but okay, let's see. So you want to get a value from 50 to 100. So it is 100 minus 50, 50 plus 1, and that is rand function modulo, right? So we do not know the implementation of the rand function because it's in the library. So the modulo might be saving a factors, but for this, I think we just know this formula, it will be okay. Okay? Okay. Yeah. So attempt this. The upper bound is 6, the lower bound is 1. What will be the equation? Don't simplify. I want you to write the answer as this equation using minus and plus. Okay. Oh yes. So all of you are on the right track. Yeah. So what evaluation I think is minus and plus it again and put the final value. Yeah, but when writing a code, do like this. So that you know like what's the upper bound, what's the lower bound, and how are you getting that, right? So now how will you make this run for 10 trials? So you this is one die. Now you have to do for the another die. So the formula will be the same. Now how will you make these two dice run for 10 times? So what concept comes to your mind if you want to make some function continue for a period of time? So what shall we use? Shall we use if statement? Shall we use loop? Loop. Okay. Which loop will be the best here? Since it is count control. While for. Okay, alright. So one has said while, one has said for. Others, it will be while or for. Okay, so one has said while, one has said for, one has said do while. Okay. Any other? So there are 4 participants, so one is left to answer. Let's see what they say. Okay, so yeah, so the best answer here would be to use a for loop, right? So you can have a for loop and it can run 10 times, and inside that you can call the random function to calculate 2 times, right? So yeah, create a for loop and call this random function inside there 2 times. Attempt that please. So I hope you are attempting that. Any answers? So Josiah, you are saying that we use the string time 0 command. For our purpose now, we will just want a for loop, and in the for loop we want to call these two functions. Okay, so let's do it together, and I will tell you when we use the string time 0 command. Right. I hope it is clear. Alright. So first of all, we have declared our libraries, that's standard. So we have declared the cstd lib so that we can use the random function here. Right? So now int main s rand time 0. And for that, to use this function, it is important that we include c time. Right? If we do not include c time, we won't be able to use this function. Now, does anyone know what is the purpose of srand time function? No, no. And one left. Okay. Now, and srand time 0. Now, if without this, we call this function, right? Without having srand time and putting 0 here, right? So if we call this our random function without this, so after every iteration, it will call the same thing. It will give the same sets of result. For example, in the first round, it will give 5, 2, 1, 5, 1, and in the second round, it will also give 5, 2, 1, 5, 2, 1. Yeah, so if you've said it, to prevent the same sequence from being generated each time, use srand to change the seed value. Yes, yeah. So that's the main thing. We use this so that at every time this sequence is different. If we do not use this, the sequence will always be the same, right? So to get actual random numbers every time the program executes, we use this srand time 0. So this is the computer time, and based on that it gives a random set of numbers, right? So that is the purpose of srand function. All of you clear on that? Okay. Now, so we want to use the all random function both same time. So O int I equals to 1, I is less than equal to 10, I plus plus. That's the basic syntax of a for loop. Now, we are declaring a variable of type integer and to store our random function, random value there. Alright? So, rand modulo 6 plus 1. Now, here's the trick part. In our previous example, what we said? It is b minus 8 plus 1. Right? But how come here it is 6 plus 1? Right? So 6 minus 1 was 5 plus 1 6 and plus 8. So b minus 8 plus 1 plus 8. This is the most appropriate formula. You get a random number between 1 and 6. For this purpose of this equation, from that one that we use here, it would have included 0, even if you didn't want it. Right? So it would have just given a number from 1 to 5. But we are adding a 1 here plus 8 to get numbers from 1 to 6. Right? So this is the main formula. So it is range modulo 6 comes from here, 6 minus 1 5 plus 1 6 and plus a. A was our lower bound. So this is a, this is b. We want to get values between that, and in our case a is 1 and b is 6. So 6 minus 1 5 plus 1 6 plus 1. So 6 plus 1. This will give random values between 1 and 6. Same thing here, and it will put the value in D1. For the second part, it will put the value in D2. Right? And then we display the values D1 and D2. Now, and when you run this program, we get this and this. This will depend on your computer. Every time it will give different values. Now, if SRAM time was not declared, this sequence and this sequence would have been the same. But since SRAM time 0 is declared, these two are different. Right? So all of you clear on this code of random functions? Any confusions? Okay, so you want, okay, repeat. Okay. So we have integer d1, which can store integers. We have our random function modulo, right? And 6 plus 1. We want values between 1 to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Here they have used this formula. B minus a plus 1 plus a. If plus a was not there, it would have given us answer from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Random numbers between 1 to 5. We are adding plus a so that we can get random numbers from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So b minus a plus 1 gives you 6 and plus 8 I is 1, 1. Right? Same thing for the second one. We are getting random numbers from between 1 to 6 and storing it into D2. We print D1, give us space, print D2. This is what we get. Second times 0. Since that is there, both of these sequences are different. If this was not there, then both of their sequence would have been the same. Okay? Now all clear? So you can also try out this program in your own compiler, C++, and see the answers you get. Yeah. So see the random function, you can see the random number generator to indicate that it should start in the pseudo random sequence, calling the srand set where the rand starts. Srand is defined in the ESTD, LIB. Qualifiers range tests where the range starts, polling time 0 gets the current time. So to set up really random numbers on each program run, SRun time 0. Right? So different sequences on each time the program runs, SRun time 0. That's the main purpose of that. So the purpose of time 0, SRun function. What happens when the above two are used together? So it's S, we declare it as S ran time 0, right? So here it says pseudo random sequence. That's where the random function starts, and calling time 0 gets the current time. So those two need to be used together. So this one gets different time every time the program runs, and this one, as said here, it tests where the random starts, right? So the main idea here is for you to know only that we use the SRN time to get a different sequence of random numbers every time the random function is called, right? Yes. So this was the last slide. Now you have to ask questions. If you have any questions from the MST or any other thing which you are confused and would like to be discussed now, and Unice, can you please provide your student ID so that I can send your attendance?